All right, so we've got to preface this a little bit with a couple things. So the first thing we've got to talk about is we've got this acronym or whatever it's called. I don't know. I don't teach English. Oil rig.
We're just continuing.
Okay. Yep. So this is kind of a continuation for yesterday, but I'm going to kind of preface this with a couple things before we go into what we're doing, before I do the drawings for today. So oil rig. What oil rig is going to stand for? It's going to stand for oxidation. Oxidation is losing. And reduction is gaining. This is just in general, you're going to need to know this. So today we're about to do something where we're going to throw the word oxidize or the oxidation of something. And so you kind of need to know with, well, what does that even mean to be oxidized? What it actually means is it's losing an electron. Something's going to gain an electron. And so in this whole process, we talked about things are going to gain electrons, things are going to lose electrons. Those electrons come attached to that hydrogen. So stuff's going to pick up a hydrogen, stuff's going to lose a hydrogen. Yesterday when we talked about glycolysis, we had glucose, all right? So glucose was our 6-carbon molecule. And in that 6-carbon molecule, I had C6H12O6. Well, right here, I had my NADH came in and it picked up an electron that was with that hydrogen. So if NADH gained an electron, was NADH reduced or was NADH oxidized? If NADH gained one, it was reduced. That means glucose lost one, so glucose was what? Glucose was oxidized. So if something loses an electron like glucose did, it's oxidized. That means something else has to gain one. That means something else is reduced. All right? So keep that in mind. Another thing for today. So let's say that this is our cell right here. So I've got my beautiful cell. Within that cell, I've got my bean-looking thing. And I've got 2 areas on this bean-looking thing. This is my mitochondria, okay? For this whole process we did, step 1, glycolysis, happens right here. It happens in the cytosol, all right? Step 2, which is going to be the citric acid cycle, which we're about to learn, happens in the matrix of the mitochondria. It happens in the center of this mitochondria. So today what we're talking about is the whole process of going from here into the middle of this to do this process, all right? So that's what we're talking about today. It's going from the cytoplasm or the cytosol into the matrix of the mitochondria. Ready, niños? FFA's got a field trip. All right. Ready. Let's do this. Yes.
From where to where?
To the matrix of the mitochondria or center of the mitochondria, yep. Yeah, cytosol and cytoplasm is synonymous. Yes, we're going to step 2, but there's like a pseudo step that's in the middle. So yesterday we only learned about 3 steps. And so right now you're going to learn about another step, but it generally gets categorized under step 2. All right? So here's where we go. So buckle up, niños. We're starting out, our biggest thing we're starting out with today is this molecule right here. We're starting out with pyruvate. All right? So what we've got to do now is I've got this. Okay. What this thing is right here that I just drew, it's the outer O-U-T-E-R membrane. Okay. So this is the outer membrane of the mitochondria. So if you look right here on this mitochondria, I've got 2 membranes. I've got this membrane and I've got this membrane. So I've got an outer membrane and I've got an inner membrane. I just drew the outer membrane. All right, so now I need to draw the inner membrane. This is making me dizzy. I'm going all over the place. So if I do that, I go. Thank you. Most people talk trash on my drawings. All right, so this is the inner membrane. Okay, so I've got an outer membrane and inner membrane. Delivery. Thank you. Who is this? Yes. Alondra and Abel. I think you guys are going to Cape. I don't know.
Oh, it's a gov review.
It's for a study session. I'm filming this if you want to go. I'm filming this if you want to go. So I'm going to put it online. Okay. So I've got an outer membrane and I've got an inner membrane. Okay. What's got to happen here? You see this 3 carbon? It's now going to travel through that to right here. Okay. And it's going to be a 2 carbon molecule. Anyone notice anything interesting that happened? Where did the carbon go? All right. Right here, something came off. All right. So right here, yeah, one's yours, one's Abel's if you want to hand yours to him. All right. Something came off. If I lost a carbon, do you remember what my 2 big products are in cellular respiration? Cellular respiration are I start with glucose, I start with oxygen, and I make a couple things. I make water and I make carbon dioxide. Anytime that we lose a carbon, it gets given off in the form of CO2. Okay, so CO2 comes off, and every time a CO2 comes off, NAD plus comes in, and NADH comes off. Ooh, que bueno, niños. All right. And so I made this 2 carbon molecule. This 2 carbon molecule is called acetyl-CoA. It's abbreviated. You don't have to memorize the whole thing. So acetyl-CoA. So that's what that molecule is. We have a name for this step that we just underwent. So this step, I'm going to write step, is called, so I took this 3 carbon molecule, pyruvate, and I removed something from it. It lost an electron. And remember, we had a term for if something loses an electron. Was it oxidized or reduced? Think oil rig. Oxidation is losing. So pyruvate lost an electron. So this step right here is called the oxidation of pyruvate. You might also hear it called the formation of acetyl-CoA because you're making acetyl-CoA. Okay? Location. Don't send it to me. Okay? Do we know a prefix that means between? You were on the right track. Inter. Okay? This is known as the intermembrane space. Okay, so that's where step 2 happens, or so this first part. Yeah, intermembrane space of the mitochondria. Yeah.
So, was this the pseudo step or was it step 2?
This is the pseudo step that goes towards step 2. Because step 2 is a cycle. Oh, and it's going to be beautiful. I'm glad you're excited because I'm excited. I lost sleep because of this. I know. All right. Ready, niños? So now the real step 2. Okay, so I brought in a 2 carbon. That's going to combine with a 4 carbon that I already had. What's 2 plus 4?
6.
It now leaves me with a, did you say 24? Oh, it now leaves me with a 6 carbon. Whenever I'm drawing this out for myself, I just draw the basic carbon structure first, the carbon backbone, before I do anything. So it goes 6 to 5, and then it gets 4 4s.
Wait, where's the first 4?
It was left over from the previous cycle. Because remember, if it's cycle, that means it can just happen over and over and over again. So it's left over from that. So I go 6 to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to 4, 4 to 4. So it goes 6, 5, and then 4 4s. I know. Pretty amazing. Okay. You can probably guess what happens for these first 2. It goes 6 carbon to 5 carbon, meaning something has to be given off. What do you think that carbon gets given off as? Carbon dioxide. So right here, carbon dioxide. And remember, anytime carbon dioxide gets given off, what else gets given off? NAD plus comes in, NADH comes off. Okay? Then, same thing happens right here. Okay? So, CO2 comes off because I lost a carbon. NAD plus comes in. NADH comes off. For what? Because we don't lose any more carbons. And then when it gets to that 4, 2 get added to it. So it just keeps going 65444, 65444. All right. Now we're on our first gap right here. Okay? Something comes in. Something comes in and something comes off. So what goes in here, ADP plus an inorganic phosphate comes in. What do you think comes off?
2 ATP.
Not 2, 1. So ATP comes off. ADP comes in, ATP comes off. Right here, here's the only part on here where you see something new is between this one right here. Something comes in, something comes off. So what goes in right here is a new molecule called FAD. Its whole purpose is the same thing. It's to pick up electrons that are attached to hydrogens. FAD comes in, FADH2 comes off. All right, and then our last one right here. Ooh. Right here is NAD plus comes in, and what do you think comes off? NADH comes off. And in the end, you're left with this nice little beautiful cycle. This cycle has to have a name, so it has to have a step, and it has to have a location. Okay, the name of this step is called the citric acid cycle. And the location is the matrix, thank you, matrix of mitochondria. Okay, so we've got all this right now. So if I were to look on a very, very close-up level, all right, all of this that I just drew for these two things right here happen in this little square. That's what that square is exactly what we just drew. So it's the arrow going in, it's that inner membrane. So here's the arrow going in, here's the inner membrane space right between, and then that this part right here is where the actual cycle is going to happen. So we have our circle right there for our cycle. Okay, we've got one last thing we've got to do. Products, net production. Okay, so we're going to be talking about for net production today. I'm concerned with where this line is to the right. Okay, so net product, so I'll zoom in, so just all this. Net production. Okay, I've got ATP. I've got FADH2, and I've got NADH. Okay? Based off this, from everything you can see here, how many ATP did we produce today?
In that cycle?
Okay, so you're telling me, ooh, I didn't mean to put that. You're telling me the answer is 1. I'll tell you right now, the net production is 2. FADH2, how many did we make? 1. Net production is 2. NADH, how many did we make? So let's say, okay, I'm going to do this so you can see these easier. I'm going to do these so you can see these easier. I'll say ATP is yellow. My ATP I made was right there. I'll say FADH2 is green. My FADH2 is right there. And let's say my NADH is that, whatever that is. Yeah. I made one there, one there, one there, and one there. My net production is 8. Why? What? Why would I multiply it by 2? So you let her figure it out on her own, Watermelon. Okay? So I've got this. You guys told me the right numbers. You told me, yes, I make 1 ATP. Yes, I make 1 FADH2. Yes, I make 4 NADHs. But why did I write twice that? Because remember, to get this whole thing going is from a pyruvate, and I've got 2 pyruvate. So that whole process that we just did was because of this. This guy wants to go on the ride too. Okay? Don't leave him alone. All right? He wants to be part of the party. Someone needs to invite him. So that's how we get all our net production. Not that you care, but now you know.